Pertemuan 7, Lecture 7, Case Memory, Designing Elements, Part 2. Last week, I did lecture for this one, case size, and then also this one, mapping case to main memory. Now, for this week, I'm going to talk about this topics. Replacing algorithm, and then write policy, block size, and then case number. Okay. Now the first one, replacement algorithm. It is the algorithm that is used to choose which block located in the case that can be replaced with a new block of data. So there are several caveat, several dependencies here. If we use direct mapping in this part, the mapping case memory, if we use this one direct mapping, then in that case we don't need to use any algorithm because the mapping is fixed. The mapping is fixed. There is no other alternative. If we find the data in a certain memory address location, then its case location is fixed. We cannot put that data into any other block in the case because it is fixed. So that means we don't need any algorithms in this case. However, for these two, associative and the set associative, then we need some kind of algorithm. In this case, the algorithm is implemented using the hardware. So that the replacement can happen fast. Otherwise, if it use software algorithm, then it will take the CPU time to calculate and then to to set the procedure of replacement. So it will be really slow compared to the hardware here. So there are 4 algorithms here. First one is least recently used or LRU. Yang paling terakhir digunakan itu LRU ini. And then the second is first in first out FIFO. Artinya adalah yang pertama kali masuk itulah yang pertama kali dikeluarkan. Yang ketiga adalah least frequently used. Yang paling jarang digunakan, yang paling jarang diakses, itu yang akan diganti. Yang terakhir random. Okay. Now, going to the first algorithm, LRU, least recently used. Block that is replaced is the block that that is longest residing in the case and it didn't use. So this is the pros, the advantage for this algorithm. This one is the most effective, and then it has hit ratio that is high, and then because data is frequently used is the data being stored in the case. The data is not often used, not recently used, then it will be replaced. And then it also the easiest way to be implemented in the two-way set associative mapping. So in this case, the algorithm needs to have another bit added one added bit. The name is use bit, and then which one is being referred, use bit is set to 1. So this is the example here. Case capacity only has 4 lines. On the other hand, the number of the data block is much more than that, many more than that. If the access data sequence is A access, and then B access, and then C access, and then D access, and then line C here line the third line. C ini A itu baris pertama, B itu baris kedua, C itu baris ketiga, D itu baris keempat. So A is the first line, B is the second line, C is the third line, and D is the fourth line. It is accessed sequentially in this case, in the first 4 cases. And then the CPU access C again, D, A, B, C. And then comes E, a new data E, into the case. Question is, which one being replaced? Is it A, is it B, or C, or D? If we use LRU, then the answer is D. Why D? Because it is the least recently used. Previously used is C. Previously before that is B. Before that is A. So before that is B. Before that is C. Before that is D. Here in this case D is the least one, because A is here, B is here, C is here. The farthest from C is D. Yang paling jauh jaraknya dari pengasihan C itu adalah D di sini. Karena B dekat dengan C, A dekat dengan C yang di sini. Maka yang paling jauh apa? Yang paling jauh adalah D. Maka itulah yang akan diganti. So that's why is being replaced by E here. Now, if before the data access before this one, not E, before C here is D. So before C there is another D here, so which one is being replaced? The answer is A, because here is C, before C is D, before D is B, before B is A. So A is the farthest from C. Yes. Is there any question? Ada pertanyaan? Jadi lihat algoritma ini, dilihat yang paling jauh dari ujungnya itu adalah karakter yang mana, itu yang diganti sama LRU. Okay, next. Second algorithm, FIFO, first in, first out. The block being replaced is the block being inputted the longest in the case. So for example here, case capacity has only 4 lines, whereas the data number is many more. If the access sequence is A, B, C, D, C, B, A, B, C, and then comes in the new data E, and which one being replaced? If we use the FIFO, then first being replaced is A. Why A? Because A is first line being there, being in the case, then it is the very first going out. So when we writes down the case, it starts with A, and then B, and then C, and then D. A is the first time, the very first line being written in the case, so it goes first too. Now, if data access before E, I think before C, is D, there is a D here, and the data being replaced is, answer is still A. Why? Because A is still the longest one, the longest residing in the case. Jadi sekalipun ini urutannya begini ya, ataupun yang sebelumnya di sini ada di sini, maka kalau menggunakan algoritma FIFO tetap A jawabannya yang di replace. Karena A yang pertama kali. A yang pertama kali. Dia tidak peduli dia jauh mana dari C. Pokoknya dia paling awal di sini, ya dia yang akan dikeluarkan duluan. Is there any question so far? Any question so far? Okay, let's continue. The third algorithm, least frequently used, or LFU. Which least frequently used is the one being replaced. In this algorithm, every single line in the case has a counter. So there is another memory built in within the case. So this is the example here. Case capacity has only 4 lines, whereas the block data number is a lot more than that. If the access data sequence is A, B, C, D, C, B, A, B, C, A, D, and then comes in E, and the data being replaced is, answer is D. Why D? We need to calculate the frequency of each line being used here. D, 1, 2. C, 1, 2, 3. B, 1, 2, 3. A, 1, 2, 3. So A, B, and C were accessed 3 times, and D was accessed twice. That means D is the most least frequently used in this case. Because it is least frequently used, then D is being replaced. So here, if data access sequence is changed before E comes in to be something like this: A, B, C, D, C, B, A, B, C, A, D, D, then which one being replaced? Again, we calculate the frequency of each line here. D is 1, 2, 3. C is 1, 2, 3. B is 1, 2, 3. And then A is 1, 2, 3. So every single line here was accessed 3 times. So which one in this case? In this case, the algorithm here, the LFU algorithm here, might need to use the previous 2 algorithms to break the condition. If everything has this equal frequency, then it might use the FIFO. In this case, it will be A, first in, first out. A is at the front here. Or if it use LRU to break the stalemate, then it will use the B, because B is farthest from the n character here. D, B, A, C, B. B is the longest compared to C and compared to A. So that's the LRU. So this is the LFU. LFU in this case might need to incorporate other algorithms to break the stalemate condition. Jadi kalau kondisinya sama, frekuensi pengaksesannya sama, bisa jadi LRU itu harus menggunakan dua algoritma yang sebelumnya diterangkan, entah itu FIFO atau entah itu LRU. Karena kalau tidak gitu, dia nggak bisa ganti apa-apa, karena frekuensinya dalam kasus ini frekuensinya jumlahnya sama semua. Maka harus ada satu yang dibuang. Nah, tergantung nanti dia menerapkan yang mana. Last algorithm is random. In this case, where there is a new data coming into the case, then whatever being replaced is random. In this case, it is simple to be implemented, but in terms of performance, it might not be good. Might be good, might be worse. So because it is random. Jadi kalau random di sini, jadi kalau ada data baru yang mau masuk, mau dituliskan ke case, maka dia dipilih secara random, secara acak, mana yang harus dibuang. Nah, performanya gimana? Performanya ya kadang bisa bagus, kadang bisa jadi jelek. Karena sekali lagi random di sini. Is there any question so far? Is there any question so far? Okay, continue. Now, going on to the next topic, write policy. Write policy. Aim is to ensure whether the block in case that will be replaced by another value or will be updated or will be modified has been copied back to the memory. So please remember, this is the case, this is the CPU, and this is the memory. The case values comes from the memory, and then whenever the CPU do some calculation and then it needs to update the value, it goes to the case first. Now the question is this: if I update the case values here, how do I make sure so that the value inside the main memory is also the same, that both values inside the memory and inside the case are the same for the same memory address? That's the topics of this one, the write policy. Jadi kalau ingat ya, case itu kan ceritanya cuma sekedar penampungan sementara. Penampungan yang lebih permanen itu ada di main memory. Nah, jadi datanya memory di copy ke case. Nah, CPU ketika melakukan perubahan value pada case, gimana ini supaya dipastikan supaya value yang diganti di sini itu juga dituliskan di sini di memory supaya datanya tetap sinkron. Jangan sampai yang di sini tulisannya A di alamat memori 100, di alamat memori 100 ini tulisannya B. Nggak sinkron. Nanti gimana caranya kalau nanti ininya dihapus, terus ininya masih 200 padahal update-nya masih 100. Terus ketika nanti diakses lagi, loh kok ternyata 200. Padahal harusnya sudah terupdate 100 tadi. First problem. How what if main memory can be accessed by more than one device without using case, without going to case? For example, using the DMA. I already talked about DMA. DMA is a mechanism for some I/O or some a slower device to access the main memory directly without using the CPU. So in that case, value in the memory can be updated by something else, not by the case, not by the CPU. In that case, what will happen with the value inside the case? Jadi kalau ada device yang dengan menggunakan DMA mengganti nilai dari memori, terus gimana nilai memori yang sama yang sekarang disimpan di case? Penggantinya gimana? Now, there are two solutions here. First one is write through and second one is write back. So I'll explain one by one. Now, the first one, write through. Every single change in the case always copied into the memory, and also vice versa. So, in this case, if everything, if the CPU update the value in the case, then the computer system must ensure that this change also happen inside the memory. And vice versa. If some device update the information inside the main memory using DMA, then the changes must also be written into the case. here are the pros and the cons. Advantage is this one is the most simplest technique. However, downside is that it may cause a high memory traffic happening between the cache and main memory. Whereas cache, the goal, the aim of the cache is that it needs to reduce the traffic happening between the CPU and the main memory. In this case, because whatever happens in the cache or in the main memory needs to be written to the other party, the other side, then the traffic will be quite high. And then the other downside is that it can make a bottleneck, or the data bus is overcrowded by many things happening, and then it will slows down the operation. The CPU cannot read the particular case line because it is still being updated. And then while it is still being updated, the bus is full. So in other words, the CPU needs to wait, and that's a downside. Now, second method is write back. In this case, update only happen in the case. If line in the case will be replaced with another data, then the previous current data will be copied to memory only if the data has been modified. This is the pros and the cons. Pros, the advantage is that the traffic going to and from the memory is low compared to the previous method. And then the downside, data inside the memory might not be valid. So in the case it's already updated, but in the memory it still hasn't been updated. And then in this case, if device wants to access a memory, then it must go through this first. It must check whether the memory address is in the cache or not. If it is in the cache, then the cache is being updated. If not, then it can goes directly to update the memory. And then the other downside is that electronic circuit needed to implement this is more complex compared to the first solution. And then still, even though the memory traffic is less than the previous one, it still can cause a bottleneck there when every single line in the case was updated by the CPU, and then all of them needs to be replaced with many data lines. In this case, every single lines in the case needs to be written into the memory. In that case, it can cause a bottleneck still. But in overall, the memory traffic is less than this one. Is there any question first about these two, write through and write back? Ada pertanyaan dulu tentang write through dengan write back? Ada pertanyaan dulu? Is there any question?
Tidak ada, Pak.
Okay, next. Second problem. First problem here, this one is something that happens inside one computer. Problem pertama ini kait dengan satu komputer, satu sistem saja, satu prosesor, satu cache, satu memori. Nah, Problem kedua adalah ini. What if there are more than one processors and every single processor has their own cache with same main memory. Jadi gambarannya gini. Main memorinya itu satu, tapi prosesornya ada beberapa. Nah, tiap prosesor di sini punya cache-nya sendiri-sendiri. Prosesornya punya cache-nya sendiri-sendiri. So, the main memory is only one. There are several processor, and then for every single processor, it has its own case, where each case might reflect the same memory address or different memory address within the main memory. Oh, the solution is this one, case coherency. There are three types of case coherency. The first one is bus watching with write-through. Second one is hardware transparency. The third one is non-cacheable memory. I'll explain one by one. The first one, bus watching with write-through. Every single cache controller monitors is monitoring line address to know whether there are another device that is writing to the memory. So in this case, every case controller, so every case there, it has a controller monitoring if there is any other device writing the memory that has its data in its case. So here is the case. So this is main memory. This is the first case. It has several. It access several memory address here. If this processor write down this memory address, then this case is stay quiet. This case stays quiet because it doesn't have any lines connected to this part. However, if this part tries to update the same memory address which this case has, then it needs to know, okay, my case has this memory address, and this memory address is being updated. That means I need to update my data here. I need to update the data inside my case. That's the first solution. And then the second solution, hardware transparency. We use additional hardware to make sure that any data changes happening in the memory always happens through the case, and then it will be copied into the other case. Means device cannot write in the main memory. Device can only write through the case. And then if there is some changes happening in here, then if other case has the same data, then it will be copied to other case too. That's why it is called hardware transparency. It needs to be transparent. The case is transparent to each other. And then the third one, non-cacheable memory. Parts of the main memory is shared by a few processors, several processors. Data in that shared memory will not be copied to the case. It always happens case miss. So in this case, the non-cacheable memory here, it allocates a part of the main memory that cannot be cached. So every single processor, if they want to share data, they will use this part. They will not use their own cache. So whenever, for example, the first CPU wants to write this the line 0, and then the second CPU wants to write line 02. then both of them will not go through any cache. They will go directly to this part. And because if they happen at the same time, it will set a flag. Okay, no, CPU 2, you need to wait because CPU 1 is still accessing this memory address. Until CPU 1 finishes with memory address 0, then CPU 2 will have its turn. Is there any question? Ada pertanyaan? Jadi kalau yang cara yang ketiga itu ada bagian blok dari memori itu yang nggak bisa di cache. Jadi kalau antar CPU mau saling berbagi data, ya mereka akan berbagi data di main memory tersebut. Cara yang ketiga ini memang lebih lambat karena tiap-tiap CPU harus kalau mau adu data harus selalu menghubungi, mengontak main memory. Tetapi secara implementasi rangkaian elektronik dia yang paling sederhana. Karena case-nya tidak perlu ditambahi macam-macam peralatan lagi. Ada pertanyaan kah? Is there any question so far? Is there any question so far? Okay. Next. Going on to the next topic, block size. Size of the memory. If it is bigger, the block size in the case is not about the case size. This is about the block size. There are differences between case size and block size. Ini maksudnya ukuran blok ya, bukan ukuran case-nya sendiri. Dalam satu case bisa punya beberapa blok. In one case, it can have several blocks. It can have many blocks. So, what being talked here is the block size, not the case size. In this case, the bigger the block size, then the case hit is bigger. Because there is this one. If locality effect, this one called locality effect. If it says something like this, if one word is inside in one block, then there is a good probability that other words inside the block will be used too. So here's the thing. So if a program take a block from the memory and then put it in the case, sometimes the program needs to read data in this address. Normally after this address, normally or usually, it will also access the data around this address, either the next or the previous one, or several lines after this one. That is the normal way, because sometimes we want to load a big picture, for example, a picture with I don't know, megabytes of size, or even tens of megabytes in the size, and it needs to read the picture information line by line. So in this case, it will load the picture information from the memory to the cache, and then it will be read line by line until the whole picture information is processed by the CPU. Jadi dalam hal ini kalau kita biasanya program itu kalau dia mengambil data dari memori disimpan ke cache, biasanya dia mengakses satu address memori, alamat. Biasanya dia akan mengakses alamat-alamat yang ada di sekitarnya setelah itu atau sebelum itu. Nah, contohnya adalah kalau dia lagi butuh mengakses gambar, informasi gambar yang besar, atau lagi memproses gambar yang besar, atau lagi memproses video yang ukurannya megabytes atau ukurannya tens of megabytes. Nah, itu kan biasanya disimpan di main memory dulu. Dari main memory di load di cache. Nah, dia akan diproses satu persatu, line by line di dalam cache. Sampai habis, sampai prosesnya selesai. Nah, yang seperti itu, makanya dikatakan ada locality effect here. Effect locality. So, normally when CPU access one thing inside the block, it will access the other things within the same block. However, if the block size is too big, then the case height might goes down. Why? Because the number of blocks that can be copied the case is smaller. Here is the thing. Wait, let me think a good example for this one. Um. Wait, I cannot forget about this one. Wait. Let me. Okay. Here, a larger block size means fewer case lines are available for storing data, potentially leading to more case misses as the case fills up. It can also lead to internal fragmentation if the data being stored is smaller than the block size. Wait. Fewer case lines. Wait. I'm okay. Yes. Here is the thing. So if the case, here is the case. It has several block. So if the block is too big, so for example in this case, the block this case only has, for example, only two blocks. So the CPU needs to read one data. It will load the case, the first block with the data, and then after that, after reading several lines in here, CPU needs to read another data. Then it will call the data and then put it in the second block. In this case, it's not direct mapping. It's used, let's say, associative mapping. Now, after it reads this, it's found out that it needs to read another data in the memory again. In this case, it will unload either this one or this one. Whereas in this example, because it is big, actually the CPU still needs to read another data inside these two. But because the block is too big and it needs to access another data from the main memory, the one of the block will be replaced with the new data. And then after this one is finished being read by the CPU, it needs to read the previous block, then it needs to replace again here. So that means if jadi gini, saya terangkan dulu dalam bahasa Indonesia. Kalau bloknya terlalu besar, kadangkala data itu tersebar. Dia pertama baca data di bagian blok yang pertama, yang separuh begini kan. Nanti dia setelah itu baca data yang kedua. Terus ternyata dia butuh data ketiga yang ada di memori, tidak ada di dua blok ini. Maka salah satu blok harus dikosongkan, ngambil data dari memori dimasukkan ke sini, ke blok yang dikosongkan tadi. Nah, padahal yang sini kebetulan bacanya cuma satu baris atau dua baris. Lalu balik ke blok sebelumnya yang sudah di remove. Nah, kalau yang seperti ini kejadiannya seringkali di copy blok besar tapi datanya pindah-pindah kemana-mana, datanya fragmented data, maka jelas tidak efisien. Itu downside kalau that is a downside if the block size is too big. When the book was written, it says that optimum number of the block size is this one, 8 to 32 bytes. However, I think nowadays it might be bigger than this one. Jadi ketika buku itu ditulis, bukunya textbooknya ini ditulis, itu disarankan ukuran optimumnya itu kira-kira segini. Tapi kalau saya rasa sekarang ini tahun 2025 rasanya sudah lebih besar daripada ini ukuran bloknya dari case. Last one, last topic, case type. Case memory types. Based on the location, it has two types, external and internal. External is off-chip case, internal is on-chip case. Based on the level, only one level case, and then multi-level case, L1, L2, L3. Based on the type of the data being stored in the case, the first one is unified, and then the second one is split case. Now, let me explain one by one. First one, off-chip case or the external, based on the location. In this case, the case is put outside of the processor. And then it uses external bus to communicate with the processor, or a specific specific bus connecting the case directly to the CPU. This one the external. And then the other one is internal, on chip. The case itself is inside the processor chip. The advantage of this way is that the execution time is faster, and it will lead to the improvement of the system performance. And then external bus activity will go down, and that means that bus can be used for other uses. This is I think normally nowadays this is the one that we can see if we buy a new computer. Next, based on the level, first one is one level case. There is only one level case, So processor, one level case, and then main memory. This one is the old technology. Normally, nowadays we cannot see something like this anymore if we buy a new computer. And then multi-level case, it has two level case or more than that. So CPU, and then level 1 case, level 2 case, level 3 case, and then main memory. Now the question, why do we need two levels or more than that? Because if we have this case miss condition, then CPU needs to access the main memory, whereas main memory speed is much slower than CPU speed. Means the performance will go down. If we have L2 level 2 case using SRAM, then it will make the data transfer faster. So if the L1 doesn't have the data which is needed by the CPU, it can ask the L2 first before it access the main memory. If L2 has the data, then it's just transferred to L1, and then L1 to the CPU. Design of L2 case, it can use external case with a specific bus, or using internal. That means it will be built inside this processor chip. Advantages and disadvantages of the multi-level case is as this one. The pros, the advantage is increase the performance. However, the downside, The case design and implementation is more complex uh, in terms of size, and then the algorithm, and then write policy, and then the circuitry inside the CPU chip will be more complex. That's the downside. And then where is this one level case, multi-level case, and then this one based on the data type, unified or split. The unified, the data and instruction in the main memory is stored in the same place in one case. One case can store data and can store the instruction at the same time. The pros and the downside of this one: advantage is the hit rate is higher compared to the split case. Split case here, it has dedicated case storing for instruction, another dedicated case storing the data. So it is separated. But because in here in the unified everything is treated as same, then hit rate is higher. And then the design and implementation is just need to be focused on to only one case because everything is stored there. However, the downside, it doesn't support pipeline. What is pipeline? Pipeline is the process of executing several data inside being fixed into the same pipe. So rather than executing one instruction throughout the whole pipe, we cut the instruction into several part and then fix it into the pipeline. Jadi apa sih pipeline ini? Kalau dengan menggunakan unified case, dia tidak bisa mendukung pipeline. Pipeline itu apa? Pipeline itu adalah proses kita memotong-motong instruksi, terus dimasukkan dalam prosesnya CPU itu bisa barengan. Jadi bisa banyak hal itu bisa diselesaikan barengan. Yang satu ambil data, yang satu ambil instruksi, satu ambil data, satu mengeksekusi instruksi, itu bisa terjadi barengan. Tapi kalau yang modelnya case-nya jadi satu begini nggak bisa dipisah. Datanya, karena data dan instruksi adalah satu case yang sama. Now, let me say it in English. Because the data and the instruction is stored in the same case, then whenever there is a CPU clock, it needs to write from the same case. It can only read either instruction or the data. It cannot read both of them at the same time. However, if there are two cases, one storing the data and the other one storing the instruction, both of them can be accessed at the same time within the same CPU clock, and then the CPU can process both of them at the same time. So that is pipeline. And then the other downside is that it can have contention. This contention is something like this. So which one should I store in the case? Is it the instruction or the data? The instruction needs to be updated, needs to be read in order the program to be executed. However, the instruction itself needs the data. So which one should I store here? So that's the case contention. So, rebutan case di sini itu artinya gini loh. Komputer itu beroperasi, dia butuh instruksi sama dia butuh data. Nah, karena dia butuh instruksi sama butuh data, mau yang disimpan di dalam case yang mana dulu? Yang instruksi dulu atau data dulu? Karena kalau dalam unified di sini, instruksi dan data jadi satu. Sementara si program itu butuh dua-duanya itu. Butuh instruksi sekaligus butuh data. Loh Pak, ya kalau gitu dibagi saja Pak. Baca instruksi, terus case-nya dibagi separuh, terus setelah itu baca data, case-nya dibagi separuh. Iya kalau begitu. Kalau menggunakan direct mapping, direct mapping itu dia kan nggak bisa urutan apa namanya, urutan yang bisa di-copy ke dalam case itu kan urutannya sesuai dengan yang memori. Nah, kalau kebetulan data sama instruksinya ada di alamat yang sama, alamat yang mirip-mirip yang nantinya digabung di tempat yang sama di case, nggak bisa, rebutan dia akhirnya. So, in the case that the data, the instruction in the memory and the data is in the similar memory address that needs to be stored in the same address in the case, then this case contention can happen. Now, second one is split case. Pentium Power PC use this one. Use this one. So the case is divided into two, data and instruction, stored in the separate container. Advantage here is that it supports instruction execution done in parallel way, and then it can prevent the case contention between fetching and code instruction and instruction execution. So that means the performance is better. And then this one, some history. This one for the Intel CPU. For 386, it doesn't have any case. For 486, it has a single one on chip. And then the size is 8 kilobyte. The line size is 16 byte. And then it uses 4-way set associative. For Pentium all version, it has 2 on chip case L1. One for data and one for the instruction. For Pentium 4, it has 2 multi-level, L1 case and L2 case. This is the specification. And this is the block diagram for Pentium 4, simplified. The system bus connected to the L2 case. This one connecting to the main memory. And then this one the connection between L2 and the L1. So I will not go through this. You can read it in here. This will not be on the exam. And then this one is for Power PC. Power PC is the competitor of Pentium during 1990s and early 2000. Power PC is the competitor, the main competitor. This is the block diagram, and this is the case size table for several CPUs there. Again, because this one is taken from the book in the early 2000, then the data is coming from these years. So that's all. Is there any question? Is there any question? If not, I conclude this class lecture now. Next week we will have an exam. The materials covered is from the first lecture up until the sixth lecture. This lecture, the 7th lecture, will not be there in the exam. This lecture, the last one, this lecture will not be there in the exam. The exam will be similar to the first quiz. So make sure you log in using your Trunojoyo account. Ada pertanyaan? Kalau tidak ada, saya akhiri. Sekian.